So this is the PowerPoint on sentence structure that I use in the classroom when I'm teaching the basics of grammar, which is just a basic sentence structure. So, and I've given you definitions and information here. So, and some of this is you'll also be familiar with from your own textbook. An independent clause must have a subject and a predicate. And coordinating conjunctions. And here are all of them. There aren't so many that you can't memorize them: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Sometimes it helps if you use acronyms. So like, for example, I think of the word fanboys, and I'm just using the first letter of each of the coordinating conjunctions. So F-A-N-B-O-Y-S. Fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, and it just helps me remember them. And we've gone over a list of subordinating conjunctions. And as I've explained to you before, subordinating conjunctions, there's too many of them. You can't memorize them. You have to notice how it's working, how it's attaching itself to an independent clause. And again, there are too many prepositions. But we've gone over those in the previous slide, chapter 5 from the textbook, and I've pointed out the main ones. And here I'm just explaining the difference between a subject and a predicate. The subject is normally a noun or a pronoun or a proper noun. And remember, a proper noun is just, for example, Kamloops is the proper noun. The common noun would be city. Canada is a proper noun. The common noun would be country. Heather is a proper noun. A common noun would be professor or woman or girl. Remember that abstract ideas and concepts are nouns, and they can also be subjects. For example, justice is a noun. Integrity, love, all of these are abstract nouns, and we try to avoid them in writing. You want to write in concrete nouns. And then I give you an example. The subject of a clause performs the action. So I am the subject, and smashed the computer is the predicate. And you'll see here, I, subject. Sorry, I should have done that in yellow for you. I is subject, and smashed the computer is your predicate, the underlined portion. Independent clauses is just a complete thought. An independent clause is a sentence. And again, here are the coordinating conjunctions. Fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. And when it comes to coordinating conjunctions, if, and here we have an example, she plays the guitar and she plays the banjo, or she plays the guitar and the banjo. So here we have a comma and a coordinating conjunction. And here we have just a coordinating conjunction. We know we need this comma because you'll notice here we have a subject, and here we have a subject. So we have she plays the guitar, she plays the banjo. So you have two sentences, and these two sentences are being joined together by a comma and a coordinating conjunction and. Here we have she plays the guitar, and then you have the banjo. So you have a independent clause, she plays the guitar, and the banjo is a dependent clause. So you have no comma, she plays the guitar and the banjo, because that coordinating conjunction is joining the banjo, a dependent clause. And we've gone over relative pronouns previously, but here's more information. And I've given you a definition of the relative pronouns in the chapter 5 PowerPoint. sentence structure, a concrete image of how sentences work. So what I've done here is there is a subject wheel and a predicate wheel, and I'm just using a bicycle as an example for how to think of how sentences work. So what's a sentence? And again, this is a review from chapter 5. Here are 3 sentences. He smiles. Autumn leaves swirled gently to the ground. The park district will open an outdoor ice skating rink in November. So the subject is always telling us who or what, and that predicate portion is always telling us like what about the subject, like why is this important? So again, these 2 parts connect to form a basic sentence. The subject is that who or what, and what about it is the predicate. So these 2 parts connect to form a stable structure, a bicycle, subject wheel, predicate wheel. We can have just one word in each wheel and we still have a complete sentence. Children play, students studied. Most of the time, our ideas are a little more intricate or involved. The neighborhood children play basketball at the community center. Students in the biology lab studied cells under an electron microscope. So you're still having like your subject, the neighborhood children or children, predicate, play basketball at the community center, or the neighborhood play basketball at the community center. Students, subject in the biology lab studied cells under an electron microscope, predicate wheel. So then we can expand by adding adjectives, words that describe nouns, or adverbs, words that describe verbs, adjectives, and confusingly other adverbs. So business writers normally do not rely on adverbs at all. So like, for example, if you look under these the adverb column here, airline employees worked diligently to reschedule our flights. Diligently is the adverb. And it's fine to write airline employees worked to reschedule our flights. If anything, that is a preferable sentence. We carefully loaded the van with furniture. Carefully is your adverb, and we loaded the van with furniture is a better sentence. Adjectives describe the noun. So I'm going to highlight the noun in green. Okay, that's a terrible green. That word was magazines. So magazines is your adjective, and magazines is the noun. Old magazines, old is the adjective. So again, you don't need the word old. Magazines are stacked under the kitchen table, or even magazines are stacked under the table, because kitchen is another adjective describing table. The weekend seminar explains how to start a small business. And again, the seminar explains how to start a business. Small business is probably like that. This adjective is probably quite useful. Even the weekend seminar, that one's pretty useful. So old magazines I would cut, or old I would cut, kitchen I would cut. I would probably keep these adjectives in the second example here. The adverbs you can get rid of entirely. We can also build onto a sentence by adding prepositional phrases. And again, you're probably not going to use a lot of these in business writing. The windows rattled in the winter storm. Obviously, this is not a business sentence at all, but in the winter storm is the prepositional phrase. And we know because in is a preposition. We loaded our hamburgers with ketchup, mustard, and onion. With is a preposition. So it gives you extra information, sometimes useful, sometimes not. Regardless of how much detail you add, the wheels give the same kind of information. The subject is always going to tell us who or what, and the predicate will always tell us what about it. subjects and predicates connect directly. Do not separate them with a comma. So Carlos and his family showed me that humor is more important than winning. Carlos and his family showed me that humor is more important than winning. You do not need, this comma is incorrect here. You do not need this. Sentences have two parts, a subject and a predicate. Dependent clauses. Think of the dependent clauses almost like a basket for a bicycle. So they are something that cannot, they're not a wheel. They are not a stable structure. They need to be attached to the bicycle like a basket. So when the music began, this is a subordinating dependent clause. And we know it's a subordinating dependent clause because it's beginning with a subordinating conjunction when. When the music began, everyone started to dance. When you begin a sentence with a dependent clause, a subordinating dependent clause, you have to have a comma separating the independent clause from the dependent clause. So the independent clause is everyone started to dance, and that dependent clause is when the music began. Don't forget you can have everyone started to dance when the music began. When you move that dependent clause to the back of the bicycle, you don't need a comma. Here are some more dependent clauses. As soon as it stopped raining, because I registered early, when we need a quiet place to study. And again, all of these are subordinating conjunctions. So when it comes to subordinating conjunctions, and if you think of them like a bike basket, you can place them in the front of the basket with a comma, or in the front of the bike with a comma, or you can place the basket in the back of the bike with no comma. And then I've just given you those examples. As soon as it stopped raining, comma, we ran through the puddles. We ran through the puddles as soon as it stopped raining. So I hope that this makes sense. Another kind of a dependent clause begins with the relative pronouns who, which, and that. And these clauses are not independent clauses. They are not sentences. They are like baskets that need to be attached to a bicycle. So, and here's like examples: who works part-time, which includes a swimming pool that is parked in my driveway. And even when I say them, you can hear that they are not complete sentences. So sometimes a relative pronoun clause is in the middle of the sentence. They often go after the word that they are describing. So who works part-time is describing Frank. And so it is coming after Frank. Which includes a swimming pool is describing the new fitness center. So again, it's coming after the fitness center. And that is parked in my driveway is describing the car. Or they will sometimes come at the end of the sentence, and then you have examples. You will notice that there are commas here and not here. And that is because with the word that, we never use commas. Notice that dependent clauses aren't sentences. They are baskets. Sentences are bicycles. Dependent clauses are baskets that we attach to the bicycle. And then a fragment. Fragment is just a part of a sentence. It may lack a subject or a predicate. And again, we have to think of it as a disconnected basket. And then I'm just giving you information about fragments. And more disconnected fragments with ing and to. So often people will write, I sprinted down the street with a period, which is fine. I sprinted down the street is an independent clause. It is a sentence. Trying to catch the train is not. It's a basket that needs to be attached to the bicycle. And then here you'll see where they've been corrected. I sprinted down the street trying to catch the train. As soon as I understood the problem, I thought of a solution. So you'll notice how the wheels of the bike create the meaning, the subject, and the predicate, and how the parts, the basket, relate to the whole, and how punctuation signals these connections. And so that is the close of this lecture. I hope this comparison to a bicycle and bicycle baskets was helpful. If you are still struggling, let me know and I will try to locate some good exercise sheets for you and I can figure out how to place them on Moodle and for you to do them. Okay, thanks very much.